What's up, you guys? I want to help you out today with your credit. As you know, my name is Jamil Frazier. I'm dedicating this channel with getting your money right and your mind right. And today I want to talk to you about how to basically fix up your credit. A little bit about me. 10 years ago, quit my job, had an amazing opportunity to partner with a company, built a health coach organization over the last 10 years. We have helped and served over 100,000 clients, and we have over 4,000 coaching partners in my organization. So we've been rocking and rolling, and I want to tell you about what happened to me about 10 years ago. So my credit had actually dropped into the 500s. I was about 720, and I always struggled with my credit. I grew up on welfare. I grew up with dad kind of not in the house, bouncing in and out of prison. And my parents had this thing about putting bills and writing false checks in my name, believe it or not. Till this day, I probably am associated with some addresses that are out there that I've never even lived at. I probably have my name on some freaking bills that I wasn't even old enough to be able to have a bank account. So I've always struggled with credit. But I worked to work, got my credit up to about 720, and then it fell to about 500. So what happened? I co-signed for some loans, and I take full responsibility for it. One thing that I wasn't good at was I just figured you co-sign for these loans, the person you co-sign for, would be on top of it, would make sure that all the loans were paid, and you'd be good. Well, I wasn't smart enough, and I didn't take responsibility, and I wasn't on top of those loans, and I wasn't on top of the person that I co-signed for to make sure that these payments were going through. And consequently, when there started to be 30-day late notices, 60-day late notices, 90-day late notices on about 8 different loans, that has a drastic impact on your credit score. So just like that, boom, my credit fell from, mid 700s to low 500s quickly. And so I had to scramble, and I had to figure out, well, how do I get my credit up? And I really wanted to remedy this issue. And this was back in like 2013, 2014. And so I said, okay. And so I started studying, and I started doing what you guys are doing, which was looking for information. And I started to figure it out shortly after I got my credit up to 800. So I want to explain to you how I did that and how you could do the same thing, okay? And it's actually easier than you think. You're just going to have to put work in it. Think about it like this. Most of you guys right now, you go to a job, right? Like that's your work. I want you to start thinking about getting your credit right as your job. So even though you go to a job and you work 8, 9, 10 hours, when you get off that job, you need to be working on getting your credit up. So let's talk about why you want to get your credit up. I don't know why you want to get your credit up, but I got 5 reasons why I wanted to get my credit up. I think the first reason was I wanted to break family chains. I don't know how many of you guys are out there like me, but my family has never, I don't come from a wealthy family. I wouldn't even say I come off from a well-off family. My family historically has been in poverty and had a poverty mindset. And when I was a little boy, I always wanted to be different. I can remember being in the 5th grade saying, everything that I'm seeing right now, the drugs, the Section 8, the welfare, the multiple women, the dad not in the house, all the things, right? I was like, the whoopings, the beatings. I was just like, I'm going to be different. And so this whole credit thing was one of those things that I was like, this is just one of the many things that I want to break these chains. So that was number one for me, was just making sure that that was an area and a chain that was broken, so that all the people that come behind me can, they will be able to, they'll be able to piggyback off of what I did. Number two, I'm competitive, man. I grew up as an athlete. You know, my goal in high school was to get a college football scholarship. I eventually did that. And I was a track athlete. And so I'm just used to being competitive. And so my wife had a brilliant credit score. She was like 820 or something like that. And here I am supposed to be the man in the house. And men, you guys know how this is. And my wife is kicking my ass with her credit score. So, I had a little bit of competitive streak in me. I'm over here looking at her and I'm like, man, I can't even, she kicking my butt, man. And so, your boy I couldn't just sit aside, you guys. I couldn't just sit aside and just let her kick my butt. So I was competitive. Number three, I just want to be proud of myself, like um, I think being able to accomplish some things in life, and it's amazing. And some of you guys might be watching this and you're like, man, getting your credit score up would make you proud of yourself. Yes, especially if you came from where I came from. And so I wanted to do things that where I could look back on my life, even small things like the credit, and be like, man, you did that, right? So just proud. Number four, and these last two are the biggest reasons why I really fixed it. Number four was I knew I wanted to get in real estate. So maybe some of you guys have seen some of my other videos about real estate investing. I didn't have the coins, man, at this point in time in my life, right? Like I was just kind of getting going with my own business. I was just getting going with building out my organization. I was just getting going with figuring out the systems to the business and the expansion and leverage and all the things. And so I didn't really have the coin. So, I was going to need to go to an institution and have them give me, obviously, some sort of loan, and nobody's going to look at you, or they're going to look at you sideways if you walk up in there, you call Mr. Banker and it's like, hey man, hey, let me get a loan. And they're like, what's your credit score? And you're like 510. Man, they'll laugh you out of the building. So I really had this deep desire to get into real estate investing. And a big part of that was to get my credit up. And then number five was, at this point in time in my life, I only had one child. Now I have four. And the birth of my first son was really the genesis of life change for me. And I wanted to make sure that I could start doing things, quote unquote, the right way, so that I could teach him everything that daddy had learned. And so this was another thing that I could do to show my son Ezra, leave a blueprint for him. So how did I do it then? Well, and this is where you'll really want to pay attention. How did I do it? First thing is I made a decision to go to work on my credit just as I went to work on my business at that time. So I was putting in hours and focus, and anything that you put a ton of attention on is going to grow, whether it's positive or negative. So the first thing I was trained to do was to find what they call an authorized user. And what an authorized user is, or find out how you can become an authorized user. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to break out a piece of paper, break out a notepad like this, and I want you to write down 10 names of people that you know or that you think have really strong credit, like a 750 and above. Okay? So at least 10 people. 20 would be better, 30 would be better than that. And your job is to ask them if they wouldn't mind allowing you to become an authorized user on one of their cards, or two of their cards, or three of their credit cards. And what this is going to do is, if they say yes, then immediately what's going to happen is their credit score is now going to become your credit score, right? So their good credit history is now going to carry over and become part of your good credit history. Now, this was probably the number one thing that I did to take my credit score from like a 510, 520 up to 800 quickly. Now, I'm not saying that this is easy to do, because this is a risk for the person that you're asking. But dang, man, if you can have someone allow you to be an authorized user, that's better. So my first authorized user, of course, was my wife. That one was pretty easy because she wants to see us move forward, right? So that one didn't take much convincing at all. But what about all the other names that I put down on my list? That took a little bit more convincing. So what I want you to do is when you go to these people, I want you to go to them with great sincerity, and I want you to go to them with a plan. The worst thing you could do is go to one of these people and say, hey, man, will you allow me to be an authorized user on one of your accounts and not actually have a plan? And also, don't ask them before you offer something, right? Figure out a way to where you can serve them. Figure out a way to where you can bring value to them. Figure out a way to where you can put up some collateral. I'm thinking about one of the gentlemen that I asked, and I had to ask multiple times. And that's another thing. Don't be afraid to follow up with these folks, because I asked multiple people, and I would send off a video text to them or a voice text or a text message, and I wouldn't hear back. And so then I would have to follow up again, and I would have to tell them, hey, I'm passionate about this. This is my game plan. This is what I want to do in the future. You know, I really see my future, part of my future portfolio being in real estate. I know you're a real estate guy. I know it's going to require a tremendous amount of trust from you, but let me tell you how I can serve you and what I'm willing to do for you, even for months before you allow me to be an authorized user. And oftentimes, once people kind of hear the sincerity in your voice and your tone and your diction, and if you come with a great plan and you show how you can serve them and you can offer up some collateral. What's collateral? Something that's important to you, right? So that might be something that holds a tremendous amount of value. That could be a car. Um, that could be um, that could be, what did I offer up? Well, I offered up a promissory note. And so, anyhow, come up with something like that. Um, Number two is settle any outstanding debts or any outstanding 30, 60, 90 day. So let me tell you about, so you remember I told you about those 8 loans that I co-signed for that all sort of collapsed? Well, one of the things I had to do was I had to go and settle those. There's a couple different ways that you can settle. These so happen to be all student loans. And these student loans, I would have to call up the student loan company and kind of convince them to forgive not the loans, but forgive the 30, 60, or 90 day charges that now are showing up on my account. I did have to pay off those student loans, so too. So that's one of the ways you're going to want to settle that. Either you can Either you can dispute it, or you could just do what I did, which is just pay those bad boys off and then keep calling those creditors back to see if they will remove those stains off of your credit report. Now, here's what I'll tell you. It's not like you're just going to call once. And it's not like you're just going to call twice. You're going to have to pick up the phone and keep calling and getting to the decision maker as well. Just think about it. The person that first picks up the phone is probably someone sitting in a little cubicle or something in Nevada or India or something like that. That is they're just man, what do you call sort of like customer service representatives, right? But they hold no decision making ability in the process. So you're going to have to keep getting to the people that do make the decisions. And so how do you do that? You ask. You say, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for helping me. Who's your direct boss? And then when the direct boss gets on, you say, hey, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for helping me. I'm still not really having my issue solved. Who's your direct boss? And then you just keep going up the line. So make sure that you do that. Number three is raise what they call your credit authorization. One of the quickest ways to do that is start actually getting more credit cards. Now, when your credit score drops like mine did to basically low 500s, you're not going to get the best cards. In fact, it's going to be pretty hard to get a card. And once you do get a card, the interest rates are going to be sky high. But don't worry about that, because the goal isn't to use the card. The goal is just to get the credit. So let's just say you even get a crappy card, and let's say they only give you an allowance of maybe 2,000. doesn't matter because a 2000 is just a starting point. What do I mean by that? So what I would do is I would just be calling in, I'd be applying for all these cards. And once I did get a card, that's just like going out on the first date, right? Our goal is to get married though, and our goal is to get this credit card company to move from only giving us a $2,000 allowance on his card up to $100,000 allowance on his card. I got some cards all the way up to where they're unlimited, and that's what I carry now. It's unlimited cards. Not unlimited cards, but there's no limit on the cards, right? But it didn't start that way. So even here with something like, this card here, or this card here, or this card here, right? These would be cards that I would apply for. And then this is a Discover card, right? So I applied for a Discover. This is a really good one, but I'm trying to take you guys back to like when I was first doing this. So I applied for a Discover card, but that's just the beginning of it. On the back of this card, it has a phone number, 1-800-347-2683, okay? Now your job, let's just say that they only gave me an allowance of like $2,000. What your job is to call into that number and then get to the right person. How do you do that? The same way I just explained. Don't talk to the first person. Say, hey, my company is growing. We're bringing in a significant amount of revenue. Man, my company is about to blow up. We want to use your card exclusively for all of our business purchases. We're going to start purchasing about $50,000 a month and business expenses. And I'm going to need you to raise the limit to about $100,000. Right? You see how I just did that? How do I just do that? Because I was freaking calling all the time. Now, when they say, okay, well, I don't have control over that, like, let me get you to my manager. So what you're going to do is you're going to talk to the manager. You're going to write down his or her name. You're going to build a relationship, and they're going to tell you no. And then you're going to call back and you're going to say, hey, Tommy, man, I was just thinking about you. And I know the last time that we talked, you weren't really willing to move us. Tommy, who's your manager? Right? And then you want to get to the next best person. And then you want to tell them what you're going to do for their card. Remember, these people want to make money. It is advantageous for them to give you a bigger credit line. Why? Because they want to make money. They make money off of you getting this card and you make kind of like not being able to uphold your side of the bargain. Okay, so that's how you do it. So all I did was I had like 20 credit cards. And then I would call back all the time and I would get them to raise my allowance. And each credit card would get to about $50,000 of allowance. So now what's happening is my credit worthiness is going up, maybe 500,000 that they've allowed me in credit. But this takes me to point number 4 is you need to lower your credit usage. So even though you are raising your credit allowance, you need to make sure that you're not using any of this credit. So that's when, even though I got the card, I would freaking cut up the card, right? Make sure that I don't use that bad boy. And so now when credit companies start to see you, they say, man, this guy has a lot of credit that he has access to, but his usage is really, really, really low. And credit companies really like that. So that's when your credit score will start to go up pretty drastically. So, I mean, those are like the biggest things that I did. Those are the same things that will work for you. And I hope that this brought you value. I will say this too. In that time frame, for me doing this, raising my credit, if you looked at any of my real estate videos, once I, got that credit score back up like that, that first year that we got into real estate, we not only bought our primary property, but we bought the first 3 rentals as well. And how were we able to do that? It's because I really went to work on getting my credit up. If I could do it, you can absolutely do it. Hey, if this video brought you any value at all, please subscribe to my channel. I'm putting out a lot of financial content. Like this video, give it a thumbs up, and share it with someone who might be in the same shoes that you're in. Talk to you soon.